Hey everyone, Gale Network here, and welcome to PGN Live. It is August 21st, 2025, and finally we have some video game sales that I could update you on. This will be on the Japanese side, so the numbers that I'm about to give you, once a few more people show up, don't reflect, United States worldwide numbers, but they still give an overall good impression of how the industry is doing. But really, it's just Japan. And it's pretty exciting stuff because things are looking solid. In particular for Nintendo, but overall, you hope that the video game industry is healthy because competition is good, and the healthier that everybody is in the industry, the better the industry is. Because competition rolls off one another, and then that's where you get people trying harder, nobody getting complacent, etc. All right. I have the chat available here before me and also on my monitor. And I'm trying to play around with, okay, where's the sun? And how do I not get the sun on my face? The good thing is, super easy to move around a tripod with an iPhone on it as I'm trying a vertical stream today. We've just been going back and forth. I try to get some nice visuals in the background too, since there is no green screen. But yeah, the main thing today is the video game sales, which is what I would like to do every Thursday morning, unless if there's a more favorable time, because I understand that not everyone is up this early. People are at work, right? Oftentimes. But let's see who we've got in here. Boo Mini, yay, live stream. That's right. I could look here too. JP, I love your shirt. Very retro. Thank you. I love Super Mario World for the Super NES. One of the all-time greats. Both the console and the game. Crazy Scott, what's up? Good to see you in here. And anybody else that's in here. We could go over this really quick since I'm waiting for more people to show up, because once we go into the video game sales data and start counting like in 10th place, in 9th, and 2nd, 1st, etc., for somebody to just pop in randomly, it might be a little jarring. Like, well, could you repeat that 8th one again? Like, I came in at 7, right? So maybe we'll wait a little bit for that. But we could go over Hollow Knight Silksong, because that finally got dated, and it's coming out in just a couple of weeks. September 4th, in fact. That's not much longer to wait. I think, if I'm not mistaken, the one and only time I played the game was the demo of it at E3 2019. And that was quite a while ago. Gosh, that was 6 years ago? Wow. Now, there's going to be a Hollow Knight Silksong demo be made playable shortly, at Gamescom. And I think it's the same demo from E3 2019, but expanded. But we'll see. People have to play it on the show floor to let us know. But I think it's going to be good. The developers are saying, hey, game was never in trouble or anything like that, not in jeopardy, just relatively small team at Team Cherry, all things considered, and a big game that had a bigger and bigger budget, longer and longer development cycle to have more details be fully realized, etc. So yeah, they had a cook. The original Hollow Knight sold over 15 million copies. Now, that's across all platforms, and probably a good portion of those sales were from the game at random times being on sale. But regardless, that's a lot of people out there that own the game in some capacity. Maybe a little less than 15 million different people, because probably some people, double dipped and bought it on Nintendo Switch and on PlayStation or Xbox and PC, etc., right? But still, that's a lot. So shout outs to Team Cherry, an indie studio, on knocking it right out of the park, right? What do you all think? Are you looking forward to Hollow Knight Silksong? Also, what do you think of today's stream being in the vertical fashion? Do you like it this way? Or do you prefer it horizontal setup? In the horizontal setup mode, the benefit there is, at least for you, I would say, if anybody... Excuse me. Sneezed. If anybody drops a super chat, if anybody does, a subscription to one of the PGN tiers or donates a subscription, I make sure that you have your place shown on screen throughout the rest of the stream as my small thanks to you for helping me out, for helping this stream out, especially as, this is something new and more regular, and hopefully going forward, something that I could do and find that right time that clicks with the most people, and then let it be known ahead of time on YouTube and on X, and remind folks, hey, this is the new schedule, and this is what we talked about before, like video game talk, a workout session, a random chit-chat day, and then a video game sales session on Thursday that could turn into other stuff. And that would be like the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday kind of, routine. Boo Many, you never played Hollow Knight. You're guessing you should before Silksong comes out. Yeah. I mean, I think that the two will independently be just fine from one another. Like, if you play or haven't played a 2D Metroid game, for instance, and you just wanted to check out Metroid Dread, and you're like, I guess I should play Super Metroid first. Not necessarily. If you want to appreciate the graduation, the evolution of a franchise, then yeah, that would be good to play the predecessor followed by, the successor. In Metroid's case, there'd be several in between. And that's cool. In Hollow Knight, it's just one, right? So I don't know. Yeah, Boo Mini, you could probably go ahead and play the first one, download it now, see what you think over the next couple of weeks, and then be ready for the hype that everyone else is going to be talking about with Silksong. Or just take your time. I know you've got Astral Chain coming up soon, and if you're not in a rush to play Hollow Knight, 8 years ago it released or something like that, then yeah, play it eventually. Crazy Scott, you don't like the vertical personally? Okay, good to know. See, I got recommended it by YouTube, so that's why I'm trying it out for a couple of times. And like I said, the horizontal one, it benefits you all a little bit more, and me, because, I do like to see when somebody gives a super chat, when somebody subscribes to the channel in one of the tiers or donates a subscription to someone else, I like to have their name up for the rest of the stream as a small thanks. Like, you're helping me out, you're helping the show out financially, you're boosting up the community a little bit, you're helping get early access to the shorts, which is a thing, if you didn't know. Anyone who is normally a green belt tier and up gets access to all of these daily shorts several hours before they go up. They normally go up every midnight Pacific Standard Time. Anyone who's a green subscriber and up gets them like 4 hours early or 5-6 hours early sometimes even longer than that. But that's just one of the perks that that green belt one has. But for the rest of August, I was like, you know what? Anyone who's blue belt tier and up gets that access. The vertical stream, I'm glad to know your feedback that you don't like it or not that big of a fan of it. I guess it doesn't benefit you in that case. To me, maybe it benefits me slightly in the sense of, well, I guess I could move the camera around a little bit easier because it's just a phone on a tripod, you know? Hmm. What else we got? Love in the Philippines. What is your thoughts on your wife and you? Anybody happy is happy. Whatever. There's no right or wrong way to get married necessarily, to start a relationship. You could have a little bit of an age gap between husband and wife, wife and wife, husband and husband. You could be close in age. You could have one be, older, younger, more capable in this department and this department, in their job performance, education. As long as it's two people that get along, that have respect for one another, that love each other, then yeah, marriage is good. Same thing with and there's never too old of an age to get married either. Nor is there necessarily too old of an age to have kids, in my opinion. I mean, there probably is, from a health perspective, that little bit of a risk in particular for the woman who's pregnant to get so at an older age and delivery complications and stuff like that. But just the sheer aspect of having kids, some people older might be better. They're more seasoned and they're done with exploring lots of travel and stuff like that, and now they're ready to start a little family. Or adoption is always something that you don't have to then worry about, being older and having safety complications having a kid. Well, you can adopt at any age. Yeah, I guess there are benefits though to being a younger parent because you have more energy yourself. Hopefully you have fewer health problems yourself in terms of bones cracking and injuries in your back and all that kind of stuff, so you could be the mom or dad that goes around and has a whole day at Universal or Disneyland or something. You're not tired. You could run and jump into the pool or into the ocean and not be, oh, I'm too stiff and stuff like that. So there's that aspect. As long as you're ready. I know this is an off topic, but hey, I got asked one question. I try to answer all the questions. What do you think of, my wife and me and different ages and stuff like that? To each their own. It's all good. Anyways, moving on to some gaming stuff. Yukimura, hi. Welcome. Trevor Wernish. Message retracted, so I don't know what you said. Sorry. Nintendo's All-Stars. Hi, welcome. Nintendo's All-Stars is a green belt tier. So Nintendo's All-Stars, you probably saw today's Rainbow Six short a few hours early, right? Because that's a part of your subscription. I think you're green belt tier, or are you blue? I'm not sure. But right now, everyone who is blue and up sees it. So, yeah, you must have seen it. Let's see. Boo Mini. My husband and I had our 3-year wedding anniversary yesterday, but we've been together since January 2014. That's super cool. Well, congratulations on your wedding anniversary. That's neat. August 20th. That's cool. My wife and I got married on July 27th, so we're both summer. But way to go on your wedding anniversary of 3 years, and super nice that you've been together for 11 and a half years. That's nice. Okay. Since I'm caught up to the comments, and Crazy Scott said, you bought Hollow Knight but haven't gotten around to playing it yet with your huge backlog. I can see that. Okay. Yeah, the backlog is real. I have a couple that have built up over time as well. We got on a little bit of a Hollow Knight discussion, a little bit of a tier update, and small conversation on the pros or preferences that some of you have when it comes to vertical or horizontal streams. And, this is also the time of the day, right? A lot of people are working right now. So this isn't, yeah, Yukimura. Any news about Silksong? Yes, it got shown off today. Well, it's being shown off right now at Gamescom and being made playable. But the big news is it is coming out September 4th. This weekend it will be playable on Nintendo Switch 2 and Xbox Series. And then, yeah, it'll be releasing September 4th. So in just a couple more weeks. Pretty exciting. From having almost radio silence for several years, I guess it was technically, updated in 2022, like 3 years ago. We had a new little trailer of it. Yeah, you can't wait. That's right. If you need, I'm going to pitch this or promote this. If you need a game to play in the meantime, that is a 2D Metroidvania game, and you've played, Metroid Dread, and you've played Hollow Knight Silksong and stuff like that, I gotta recommend you Ghost Song. If you haven't played Ghost Song on Nintendo Switch, check it out. It's also available on Steam, PlayStation 4, 5, Xbox Series. High quality, really good game, indie game, but totally worth it. Absolutely does it have Metroidvania vibes. Chase Cullen, Silksong September 4th, heck yeah. Don't give you more games for your backlog, Crazy Scott. That's true. Crazy, how many platforms is coming out on day one? Yeah, they're gonna do pretty well with their day one and opening sales. Makes me wonder too, because previously I thought that the Nintendo Direct might take place on September 3rd, and that a Mario Direct might take place on September 17th. If we get a Nintendo Direct on September 3rd, that would be quite cool to be like, hey, tomorrow Ghost Song, but today all these goodies. Metroid Prime 2 and 3, Shadow Drop today, September 3rd. And then in 3.5 months, boom, Metroid Prime 4, Beyond. Mid-December, that sounds kind of late, but maybe. We'll see. Boomini, you go back to work in 1 minute. Well, thank you for joining us for the last 18 minutes or so. Yukimura Ghost Song looks cool. Gotta check some videos on it later. Yeah. I'm an NPC in the game, by the way. So that's another cool thing about it. Nash, sup, Messi? What's up? All right. Oh, and Jack F123. I also saw that the Indiana Jones is coming to Nintendo Switch 2. I hope it runs well. Yeah. 2026. Hopefully earlier than later. Like, I'd be very happy if it was a February or March release, just to get it, earlier than later. Like, not in October or something like that. Pokemon Fan 34, welcome. Yeah, we're live. We're finally going to talk about the Nintendo Switch, or not Nintendo Switch. Well, it is kind of Nintendo Switch heavy, but we're finally going to talk about the Famitsu sales for the previous week in Japan, and what sold what, and what was the winning console, what was the winning game. I might come back on later today. I hope the new Lego Batman releases on Switch 2. It looks so good. Yeah. It was really neat seeing that trailer, because I totally knew right away, like, this is set in the Batman Begins, this is the Dark Knight universe. Like, you could tell. And it's got humor. It's got, 3 movies worth of content in it, plenty of characters, alternate costumes. And it was funny. Batman, you fight in the dark by choice. I was raised in the dark. I know everything about the dark. Ow, ow, oh, that really hurt. Who put that there? Ow, I could have got injured. With the Lego piece underneath his foot, Bane. That was funny. Yeah, Lego does a good job. They've done a good job with IP over the years, like Star Wars, Harry Potter, and Batman, and Marvel, and DC. They handle things very well. Okay, should we talk about some video game sales? That was one of the main points of today's stream. And like I said, I might come back on later again and do a horizontal one and go over it because more people might be on, because, hey, at that point, it will be in the afternoon, more likely than not. More people are there anyways because folks are off of work, so that helps. And yeah. Yukimura, gotta go. See ya. See you later. Thanks for stopping by, though. Appreciate it. All right. We'll go with Egomaniac87. Yo, welcome. We're going to go with software first. So this is coming from Famitsu. First up, the top 10 best-selling games of the week in Japan. How many games in that top 10 do you think were PlayStation 5? You could type 1 to 10. How many do you think were Xbox Series? Type 1 to 10. Or 0, if you think that. How many were Nintendo Switch? How many were Nintendo Switch 2? Let's just see. What are you all watching right now think the top 10 was made of in terms of software? You could type the console, like -5 or 10 or 0. You could pick each console or just one. Crazy Scoth. 2 PlayStation, 1 Xbox, 3 Switch 2, 4 Switch 1. So you have a 7-3 split overall of Nintendo to non-Nintendo. Okay. All right. Good to see the guesses. Let me tell you. The split is, watch, someone's going to say it right after I type it and be like, I got it exactly correct. 7 Nintendo Switch, 3 Nintendo Switch 2. All 10 Nintendo Switch console related. In 10th place, Tamagotchi Plaza sold 11,265 copies on Nintendo Switch. In 9th place, Super Mario Party Jamboree with 12,040 copies on Nintendo Switch. In 8th place, Animal Crossing New Horizons. Yes, the game that is over 5 years old, still on here, with 12,575 copies. In 6th place, a new entry for the week, Gradius Origin Collection, which includes Gradius, Gradius 2, Gradius 3, Salamander, Salamander 2, Salamander 3. On Nintendo Switch, it sold 18,998 copies. In 5th place, Super Mario Party Jamboree Nintendo Switch 2 Edition plus Jamboree TV, that's a mouthful, on Nintendo Switch 2 with 19,172 copies. In 4th place, Minecraft on Nintendo Switch, which sold 20,204 copies. Think of that. Minecraft. Been out for quite a while, yet it's continuously selling well on Nintendo Switch. And this is why it makes sense for Microsoft to have some of their IP on other platforms, in particular Nintendo, if you want to sell anything in Japan. In 3rd, Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba, the Hinokami Chronicles 2, 38,200 copies, Nintendo Switch. In 2nd place, Nintendo Switch 2's Donkey Kong Bonanza, with a whopping 60,200 copies sold. And in 1st place on Nintendo Switch 2, Mario Kart World, with another 144,911 copies sold. 7 Nintendo Switch games, 3 Nintendo Switch 2 games. That's what makes up the top 10. And you've got some evergreen titles at this point. Games that have been out for a long time. Like Super Mario Party Jamboree on Nintendo Switch has been out for a while, and now its physical version is at 1.37 million. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, yes, even with Mario Kart World selling another 144,000 copies, which makes sense. It's still new. It's only been out for 2 months. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the game that's 8 years old, that's based off of a game that's like 11 years old, still managed to sell 18,000 copies. Nintendo Switch isn't dead. There are some people out there buying a Nintendo Switch 2 that skipped out on the Nintendo Switch generation, that are buying hot Nintendo Switch games, even if their successor is out on Nintendo Switch 2, because they want to get into the IP. They want to find out what they missed out on. They want to have fun with good titles. And even if some people might say, oh, Mario Kart World is better, some people might say Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is better. Regardless of which one's better, are they both very good games? Yes. Are they both different enough that they're both worth owning? Yes. And there you go. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe still selling. And 18,000's not nothing. That's a week's worth. You times that by 4, roughly, right? And you're looking at like 70,000 more copies of the game sold in Japan, approximately, for just a month. So worldwide, you multiply that, and you got a couple 100,000 more copies of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe out there in the world in roughly like 4 or 5 weeks' time. That's amazing for a game that's that old. Now, Donkey Kong Bonanza, physical alone in Japan, is at 267,000. It's healthy, okay? This data goes through August 17th. The game came out on July 17th. So that means its first month of physical sales in Japan are over 250,000. Very impressive. In Mario Kart World, its physical sales alone in Japan are at 1,590,000. That's also a lot. You know, we saw Nintendo with its fiscal report ending June 30th, and just how well Nintendo Switch is doing, how well Nintendo Switch 2 is doing. Yeah, Nintendo Switch is an older system at this point. It's selling now, 900 something thousand per 3 months instead of the nice 3.5, 2.9, 2.4 million. Now it's a million at best. 900 something thousand. How are the tariffs going to impact it? Hi, Joycey J. Welcome. How are the tariffs going to impact the Nintendo Switch going forward? I think it will, in part, but it's still the cheapest entry point of gaming in the latter half of 2025. Everything else went up too. The cheapest PlayStation 5 is now $500. If you want to go with a physical version, it's $550. If you want to go with a Pro version, it's $750. Xbox Series S, your cheapest entry point isn't $300 anymore. It's $380. You could be spending $600 on an Xbox Series X, or even more, or less slightly, depending on what version you get of the 5 with different terabytes worth of storage space. So yeah, the base Nintendo Switch is $230 now. It's not a wonderful thing. It's an unfortunate thing that it went up this far into its life cycle, but it's still the cheapest entry point. If you're a family today with a 5-year-old kid, in which, in the last 5 years, there wasn't a need for you to have a gaming console in your household. You didn't even let your kid be big on the iPad or technology. But now, they're in kindergarten, Now would like to get them some kind of video game, some kind of system because the friends are playing it. You're not a big gaming household yourself. You're going to look at the market and see Nintendo Switch is still viable. It still has new games coming out. People are still talking about it. 155 million people playing it. Plenty of people playing it. Mario. You liked the Mario movie. Maybe you saw that. New one's coming up. You buy a Nintendo Switch for $230. The Lite. Or maybe you get, a console for your household that's on the TV, $340. That's still less than Xbox Series S at $380. And that one's digital only. This one's physical. But if you're looking at the more modern stuff, Nintendo Switch 2, $450 is quite attractive compared to Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, because you're getting a very comparable level of graphics, modern games. You have a tremendous backlog, physical games available in the backlog. Yeah, it's a very compelling purchase. So anyways, the point of that was Nintendo Switch still holds a place in the industry for the months of August through December and even into 2026. It's going to be all right. Egomaniac 87 with the Switch is the perfect console, not just for kids either. Yeah, no, it's still fantastic. One of my son's friends got a Nintendo Switch for like birthday or early Christmas. I remember it was like mid-December, if not Christmas, like last year. Now, the family didn't know probably that Nintendo Switch 2 was probably coming out soon or super glued into like, oh, there might be a direct early next year, like, that kind of thing. But I don't think it mattered either. All of my kids' friends, my son himself, have a Nintendo Switch. Everyone's talking about different games, Kirby and Fortnite and Mario Odyssey, Mario Kart, Smash Brothers, Animal Crossing, like just different things. And one kid, didn't have it, come over to birthday parties and stuff like that, like, oh, play, and like, would like to play, but didn't have a ton of familiarity with, controller and stuff. Just not a family that was like a typical gaming family or whatever. Got a Nintendo Switch OLED model, Christmas last year. It's been, 8 months, and he loves it. He's playing online with my son, well, not all the time, but pretty often, and they're playing Fortnite, and it's like, hey, download Apex Legends. That's another free one. Cool. Kirby and the Forgotten Land picked up. Have fun with it. Super Mario 3D Land plus Bowser Fury picked up. Enjoying it. And that's a brand new Nintendo Switch owner. Almost 8 years in, at the 7-year, 9-month point into the system's life, that's a brand new Nintendo Switch owner whose family just put out $350 for the system, pre-tariff, which is good. Didn't have to spend extra $50. Bought a couple of games, trying out a couple of free online games, and having a heck of a good time. And for that guy and his family, they're going to have a few more years worth of fun because they didn't even uncover Breath of the Wild yet. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, Super Mario Odyssey, like there's plenty. So that story exists for many people out there. You've got 8 billion people on the planet. Not to say that a system's ever going to sell that many. There never will be. But 154 million means that there's a long way to go still. And if economic uncertainties end up becoming more certain again, a little bit more balance here and there, tariffs end or drop or whatever, the sky's the limit for Nintendo Switch. It sounds crazy to say that I think it could hit 210 million worldwide, but if they enter India, if they have more continued success in China, if they eventually do a player's choice, permanently reduced price lineup of games, and eventually get down to, reverse course correcting this price hike with a price drop below the base prices of 200, 300, 350, yeah, then you've got the possibility for a 210 one day. Or a Nintendo Switch Micro to come out. Ooh, like a smaller form factor, $100 Nintendo Switch. Dang, can you imagine that? Some people would buy it as their second, third, fourth Nintendo Switch. Some would buy it as a gift for someone. Some would buy it for the first time because it's like, not to say throwaway money, but like $100. Like, heck yeah, dude, I'll spend $100, whatever. Yeah. Now, there's still room for Nintendo Switch to sell, even without the whole price drops and my hypothetical Nintendo Switch Micro and Player's Choice and getting into India, better success in China, etc. Even without that, and with the tariffs right now, which will only hurt the sales, it's still going to sell this holiday season. It will still sell 800,000 or so between July 1st and September 30th. It will still sell 1.4 million just this holiday season, October 1st through December 31st. Let's see. What else we got? Pokemon Fan 34, you love your Switch too. Good. J Biggs, Mr. NY for life. Welcome. Oh. Nintendo Switch is my favorite all-time system for right now. Switch 2 will be that soon, quite possibly. I just need to give it a year to officially and fairly say that. Yeah, it's more than just, well, it plays all Nintendo Switch games and plays them better. It won't be as pioneering as Nintendo Switch was because it's an evolution of it. And that's all it had to be, right? Is just an awesome evolution of Nintendo Switch. And the bonus being the mouse controls. But Nintendo Switch was like revolutionary, right? Home console, dockable, portable, tabletop mode, all in one. But where Nintendo Switch 2 could beat it is in new software made for it. Not just the fact that it can play the other software, but new software made for it. Will its Zelda compare in some level or be a little bit better or just a little bit under Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom? Will the next 3D Mario be better, comparable, whatever, to Odyssey? We already got an amazing Donkey Kong game. We didn't have a 3D Donkey Kong game on Nintendo Switch. We didn't have a new Donkey Kong game on Nintendo Switch. We had Mario vs. Donkey Kong. We had Tropical Freeze. We had Donkey Kong Country Returns. But hey, we already got a brand new Donkey Kong. That's something. We didn't get a Star Fox at all on Nintendo Switch. If we get a Star Fox on Nintendo Switch 2, that's one more in favor of Nintendo Switch 2. We got a Mario Kart for Mario Kart. We're getting a Kirby Air Riders. We didn't get one on Nintendo Switch. We're getting a Kirby and the Forgotten Land DLC, which is a mini sequel of sorts in some way, you can think of it. So that's not quite rivaling a whole release in Kirby and the Forgotten Land on Nintendo Switch, but it is something more for Kirby, and that's pretty cool. But we'll see throughout the generation. Animal Crossing for Animal Crossing, Smash Bros. For Smash Bros. Okay, Splatoon Raiders and Splatoon 4 compared to Splatoon 3 and Splatoon 2. A Xenoblade Chronicles game and some different game from Monolith Soft versus Xenoblade Chronicles 2, 3, 1 remaster, and X. Ooh, that's a lot. Those 4 versus potentially these 2, right? Legends Arceus versus Legends ZA, but Legends ZA is also on this one. A Luigi's Mansion 4 potentially versus a Luigi's Mansion 3 and a Luigi's Mansion 2 port, right? I think that Nintendo Switch 2 will get a lot of sequels to what did well on Nintendo Switch, but we'll also see some more games from Nintendo's past. Like, I don't doubt that there's going to be a Fire Emblem. I don't doubt that we're going to get another 2D Mario at some point this generation. But what else will we get? Will they pull out something from the past like Punch-Out that we haven't seen in a while? Or in a few years, an Excite Bike? We're probably going to get mainline Pokemon, let's be honest. That is Nintendo's platform now, the Gen 10, the 10th generation of Pokemon. How will that compare to Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet, because Nintendo Switch also had Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee, and Shining Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. So it was quite a bit in there. And a new Pokemon Snap. Holy cow. And like Rumble and stuff. Like Nintendo Switch had a lot of Pokemon actually. Will you be able to fairly count Pokemon XD Gale Network of Darkness and Pokemon Coliseum? They're GameCube games, not playable on Nintendo Switch, but not full on Nintendo Switch 2 releases. But they will have an improved resolution and frame rate potentially, so in some ways you kind of count that as Nintendo Switch 2 release, but not a pure release, right? We still have to go over the hardware sales, by the way. We haven't even hit that. We went off on a tangent talking about the different potential games that Nintendo Switch 2 would have. Your next favorite system, going off of J Biggs, Mr. NY for Life, is the Wii U and Xbox 360 tied for second, Wii for third, and GameCube for fourth. Cool, cool. All good systems. And new for Animal Crossing. Yeah, Pokemon fan. Like if you haven't played Animal Crossing, it doesn't matter if it's 5 years old. If you enter it now, it's going to be a new game for you. And if someone thinks, but no one's playing it. Dude, when 35 million people own a game, a small portion of 35 million still equates to several 100,000 people still playing a game. You're still going to have not too hard of a time finding someone to enjoy it with. Dang Beam Center X. The library is so good on Nintendo Switch 1 at this point that it makes more sense to get it, especially if you weren't able to be around the cycle. By then, the Nintendo Switch 2 lineup would be more fruitful to jump in. Yeah. If you skipped out on the whole Nintendo Switch generation, which clearly means you weren't dying to play the games, or maybe just were out of games for a while, and money is a little bit of a concern, and you're like, dang, $450, that's a little bit too much for me, but you just want to play in some capacity, $230 is not bad. You would only have it portably, but it's okay. It's a $220 off. You could buy a good several games for that, or even more if you're getting them used or waiting for sales. Now, the difference factor isn't that large anymore, though. If you go $340 Nintendo Switch, $450 Nintendo Switch 2. Now you're only looking at a $110 difference. At that point, I would recommend the family, the individual, whomever, if you didn't own a Nintendo Switch all generation long, if the difference is $110, I'd say save up a little bit more, hang in there for a couple more months, and get a Nintendo Switch 2, because that $110 difference, you're future-proofing yourself, not just having a backlog of many beautiful, brilliant games from the last 8.5 years to play, but dude, this thing's going to last you for another 8 years, and you're going to have like 16 years worth of games. Not to say that you're going to play it for 16 years straight before buying something else, but like you're going to have a lot to play. But for that person that's like, well, that's a $220 difference, and I'm not going to be on like the TV, I just need something for myself on the go, I'm starting to commute to work, whatever, I could say, yeah, I can see the light, because yeah, that's a healthy difference, Could Nintendo Switch 2 cross 160 million? Yes. Originally, I thought that it would by, I had it pegged for something around summer of 2026. I basically moved it back to summer of 2027 for when I think Nintendo Switch 2 will hit 160 million. In part, thanks to this tariff thing, increasing the prices. And yeah, I didn't know previously when Nintendo Switch 2 would come out. So those things were kind of up in the air a little bit, right? Let's see what else. Okay, so yeah, I got that. My question was, can Switch 1 outsell PlayStation 2? Yes. It's not going to stop selling all of a sudden. It's going to be moving, 800,000-ish per normal quarter. That will slowly go down every holiday season. Well, not every, but at least for this holiday season. Maybe the next one, you're going to get 1.4 million for this one. Perhaps 1 million next one. Or maybe next one will be only like 850,000. But you're going to be moving a couple 100,000 every month for many months to go. You've still got like 5.9 million or so to go. So that's quite some months to be doing that. But I think by sometime summer of 2027, we get it. Let me see. What was that official number? See, I've got the computer here, so I could still type and look up stuff, because that is one of the things that you don't get to do really like on the phone, right? It's at 153.10 million. So it is, like I said, I was right. I know my numbers. It's 5.9 million away. It will top the Nintendo DS soon. Nintendo DS is at 154.02 million. So it's got, 920,000 to go. It will top Nintendo DS by sometime in October. I don't think it will do so for the next fiscal report. I think the next fiscal report, when we get that data on like November 8th or something like that, of this is how well the system sold between July 1st and September 30th, I think it's going to be a little bit shy of beating Nintendo DS's record. Maybe it'll barely beat it, but to be safe, I'm going to say it'll be a little bit shy. It'll be at like 153.95 or something like that. It'll be 70,000 off from Nintendo DS. I have to do a little bit more math, a little bit more crunching to make that number concrete and feel confident with it. But yeah. But it will definitely beat it by the end of the year. Like by the end of the year, it will be at something like 153.95, 155.1. It'll be almost 1 million ahead of Nintendo DS. And at 155.1, now you're in really close waters. Now you're at 4.9 away from hitting 160. And that 4.9, you're going to do several 100,000 in those 3 quarters. So you've got like, a 2.1 million right there. So that's 2.1 million off of your 4.9. So you're at 2.8 left. You'll do like another 1 million in the last quarter of the year. So you're at like, 1.8 left. And then it's going to take, a good 7-8 months to sell that 1.5 something million, which puts you at sometime summer 2027. Kong Don K. Hi, Paul. Are you doing a countdown for Hollow Knight Silksong? I might. How many days is September 4th from now? Exactly 2 weeks. Interesting. Exactly 2 weeks. 14 days isn't a lot of time, but it's certainly enough time, so maybe. Pokemon fan, dang, no shot for PlayStation 2? No, it absolutely has a shot. It will. It won't only if Nintendo ceases production. If Nintendo just stops making Nintendo Switch 1s, that's how it won't sell. Otherwise, if they have whatever stock they have, which they probably have a couple million out there, and they slowed down production, but to still be making a few $100,000 a month, because they could see, that's about where the hype level is at. That's where about the want level is out. Then it will. Okay. We talked about that for a while. That was fun. But now let's talk about hardware sales. So software, yeah, it was a clean sweep of Nintendo. 7 for Nintendo Switch, 3 for Nintendo Switch 2. In hardware, the best-selling piece of hardware was the Nintendo Switch 2 with 179,641 units for the week. In second place, Nintendo Switch with 37,346 units for the week. In third, PlayStation 5 with 17,131 units. And in fourth, Xbox Series with 652 units. So check it out. This is Xbox's lack of a presence in Japan. 652. 179,641. Nintendo Switch 2. Holy cow. For the week. This is what is selling week after week. It's this level of disparity. It's insane. Even if you look at the two middle systems, PlayStation 5, which released 3 years and 8 months after Nintendo Switch, being quite a newer system than Nintendo Switch. 17,131. Nintendo Switch, 37,346. A whole 20,000 more. Beyond double. And Nintendo Switch is selling beyond a double PlayStation 5 in Japan, while Nintendo Switch 2 is out. This is terrific. For this year to date, Nintendo Switch 2 has sold 1.85 million in Japan. Nintendo Switch, 1,011,000. PlayStation 5, 544,000. Half. Xbox Series, 24,000. Wow. Japan is really doing well with Nintendo Switch. If you were Nintendo, you wouldn't stop selling Nintendo Switches in Japan, because you get a couple 100,000 every month. You're going to sell a couple million every year. You are going to inch your way towards 160 million. And the rest of the world is still selling Nintendo Switches as well. United States is still moving it. France and Spain, Australia, Poland, Germany, Mexico, Canada, they're still selling Nintendo Switches. You're moving overall several 100,000 per quarter. You feel like Xbox isn't big in Japan? No, it's not. I think that Xbox had a chance earlier this generation at being the best-selling Xbox ever in Japan, and then Microsoft kind of lost that little edge, and Xbox Series will not end up being the best-selling at all. Its lifetime to date is 682,000. PlayStation 5's lifetime to date in Japan, 6.9 million. Nintendo Switch lifetime to date, 35.9 million. In about 3 more weeks, Nintendo Switch will reach 36 million. It's already the best-selling system of all time in Japan. It is the first system since the Famicom era, back in 1983, to have achieved multiple times a top 30 for the week of nothing but Nintendo Switch. Top 30! Yeah, top 10 right now was 7 Switch, 3 Switch 2. But multiple times in the last 8 years, Nintendo Switch achieved a top 30 of all Nintendo Switch. That's insane. That's Nintendo domination. That's something that no company has experienced since the original Famicom, Japanese NES era, back in 1983 to like 1989. Ever since then, oh no, you've got a split between Nintendo and Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis or Sega Mega Drive and Sega Saturn and PlayStation and PS2 and Game Boy Advance and DS and N64 and GameCube and Xbox 360 and Wii and everything sharing everything, right? PS Vita, PSP, Wii U, 3DS, earlier in the gen, Nintendo Switch and PS4 and all this. No. Multiple points eventually in Nintendo Switch's life. It was the only system to have a full placement on top 30. Nothing else on there at all. That's tremendous. Yeah. And, PS5 is not doing all that well in Japan. It has some good games on the horizon. Like, I'm absolutely looking for Ghost of Yote. I love Ghost of Tsushima, so I'm going to get that sequel. I already have it pre-ordered. That'll do well in Japan. Wolverine, I think a 2026, 2027 maybe released. That's going to do well everywhere. You got Resident Evil Requiem 9. That's going to do well in Japan and everywhere. Final Fantasy VII Part 3. It'll do well on PlayStation 5 in Japan, but if it comes out at the same time on Nintendo Switch 2, NS2 version is going to do more, right? So yeah, the future's looking healthy for Nintendo all over the place. By the way, in 2.5 minutes, we're going to hit an hour for the stream. The stream is going to end at that hour mark, unless if there are any super chats, gifted donos, etc. questions to extend the stream. That's where I'm going to end this conversation, is at the hour mark. So, just in case we do end in 2 minutes, thank you for being here. I appreciate you all watching, even if you have been here for the last couple of minutes, especially if you've been here for the whole hour. It's been a fun talk, fun conversation. And we might go a little bit longer, but that'll be, if we have that extension. You're wondering about numbers in other countries. So we don't get, unfortunately, numbers every week like we do from Japan. We get numbers from Circana roughly once a month, and they're more of like a percentages or something fact-based, like the most of any August sold, the most of any summer month sold, the best for Nintendo ever, the greatest for this one ever, etc. So Matt Piscatella, former NPD, now Circana, gives us those once a month, but it's not like a Famitsu chart that every week they give the raw actual data per, one spot, right? Nintendo's All-Stars. I'm a Nintendo fan first of anything else, but when it comes down to it, I'm a gamer and I play where the games are and plays the best on, which I have all systems, plus my PC that I built. That's cool that you built a PC. Yeah. No, that's cool. If you have that ability, that skill set, the money, whatever, the know-how to build your own PC and like you're happy with like, this is how much I put into this. This is the top of the line for this, and it's going to last me this long. And the third-party games, I'm going to go here, unless if this one's like, oh, I don't need the most power, whatever, I'll play it portable, buy it here. That's cool. And if it's exclusive per console and you have multiple consoles, also cool. You're not missing out on anything. Pokemon Fan 34, because there is a second market that's largest. United States is the biggest market for Nintendo Switch. it has sold the most amount of units in the United States. And then you've got the other countries. So Japan's percentage is absolute Nintendo domination over PlayStation and Xbox. But which console or which market has sold the most Nintendo Switches? US. By the way, we're at that 60-minute mark, and it's no worries if we end the stream here, but I'll wrap up this unless if there's a super chat or a gifted dono, then we'll extend the stream. Otherwise, this will be it. Gaming Mariner, sup, how are you? Doing well, thank you. How are you? Hope you're doing well. What's your favorite game from your childhood? Mine's Dragon Warrior 3 on the NES. Had a lot of good times and memories with that game. I'll answer that. Boom Mini? No? Sorry, Boom Mini. Pokemon Fan 34? Okay, we'll stop asking questions. No worry about asking questions. I love answering them. I just have a couple of things to do, but subscription, gifted sub, chat, dono, whatever, like those kind of things, like, I'll extend the stream. Otherwise, I'll tend to some other things. But I'm happy to talk. I'm happy to ask. This has been a great conversation this morning. To get to Gaming Mariner's question. My favorite game from my childhood. Well, one of them, I'm wearing this shirt, Super Mario World. That was a 1991 release. I got my Super Nintendo July 7th, 1992 for my birthday, because that summer also came out Street Fighter 2 for the SNES, and that was my first game that I got for the Super Nintendo in addition to Super Mario World. So that pairing of Super Mario World and Street Fighter 2 is a really powerful one from my childhood. Super Mario Brothers also, because that's what truly made me a massive video game fan. I was already playing some video games in like 1987. That's kind of like my first foray into it. Also with like Super Mario Brothers, like Pac-Man, Space Invaders, Centipede, Donkey Kong, Street Fighter, all different like games from 1987 that I played, but I didn't own an NES till 89. And for my birthday, July 7th that year, it was Super Mario Brothers, and I picked up one extra game, which was The Rocketeer. Donkey Kong Country, another one that holds special place. Cybernator, another SNES one. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. X-Men Arcade. Street Fighter Alpha 2. Super Mario 64. When the Nintendo 64 came out, my life truly revolved around Super Mario 64. Star Fox 64, another one. That June of 1997, absolutely hooked, obsessed, loved it. And then another year and a half later, The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, 1998. Oh, just such an impactful game. Made my life complete as a 15-year-old Paul. Man, what a beautiful, brilliant game, and awesome memories that come along with it. So, does that answer the question? There are a few favorite games from childhood. Pokemon fan, born in 91. Cool. Question was, when will we get the USA numbers for Switch 1, Switch 2, etc.? Matt Piscatella will put them up in a couple of weeks for like the month of July, and then eventually several weeks later for the month of August, and so forth. J Biggs, Mr. NY for life. My first game was Super Castlevania 4. Nice, I remember that one. You got Street Fighter 2 Christmas 92. Awesome. Guess I'm not as old as I thought. Pokemon Fan 34. 1991, so you're what? 8 years younger than me? Yeah, 34. Good age. I'm 42. Good age. Nintendo's All-Stars. No, not me. Actually, my grandmother got me the Super Nintendo for Christmas, and it came out with none other than my favorite franchise, Zelda: Link to the Past. Oh yeah. You got yours, Christmas '86 NES. Nice. Came with Rob. All cool. Okay, cool. All right. We hit our hour mark. No worries on no super chats. No one's ever obligated to do one. It's just that's how I was going to extend the stream. Since there are no super chats, donos, or gifted donos, I think I'm going to end it now. Almost ended it at the Nintendo 64 minute mark. That would have been fun. But hey, our conversation went longer, but that's natural. It's cool. I might be back on later today. Maybe tonight. Maybe later this afternoon. Could do a little bit of a recap on some sales. Maybe more people will be in here and have more questions. Maybe there'll be some more news. What if something crazy comes out today, like Nintendo just drops a tease on X, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond Direct coming tomorrow? What? Oh, that's probably not going to happen. Tomorrow's on Friday, but like, what if that happens? So then we have to talk about it, right? Bring Peach? Yeah, I can bring Peach. If we come back later, I'll probably make it a horizontal one. But we'll see. Have a good day. Thank you. You meant Super Castlevania was the first SNES game after Mario World. Oh, okay, I got it. If they drop a direct for General, I will lose my mind. Oh my gosh. I'll be dreaming if that comes true. Like, I'm hanging on for a September 3rd Nintendo Direct and a September 17th Super Mario Brothers 40th Anniversary Direct. Those are the two things that I've got some hopes on. Oh, I'm excited. Okay, cool. Well, hope you all have a good rest of the day. Thanks for liking the stream throughout and or liking it before you leave. And I guess I'll see you all later for more. This was fun. Take it easy. Bye. You're welcome. I saw that commented before I wanted to say you're welcome and thank you. Bye all. Oh, Robbie Reigns won. Dang it. When people just show up at the end, I feel bad ending the stream. But we are ending the stream. But it was a lot of fun. You're welcome to watch it afterwards. I know it's always different. Not to pressure or anything, but since you came in now, the one thing I said was the stream was supposed to end at the 60-minute mark. I said, like, oh, if there's any kind of gifted membership, super chat, donation of some capacity, anything, I was like, I would extend it. There was none dropped, so we just naturally let another 8 minutes go by of talking. So, like I said, no pressure to donate, but that was like going to equal the stream extending. Otherwise, my intention was 1 hour, and then I've got to do some things. But I would put that to the side if we wanted the stream to extend. We did talk about some good stuff, though, today. To recap for Robbie Reigns real quick, we had some Nintendo Switch sales in Japan that we went over, Nintendo Switch 2 sales in Japan, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, how they all fared, what sold what, in terms of software, in terms of hardware. It was a Nintendo domination of a week. We talked a little bit about Hollow Knight Silk Song coming out September 4th, which is pretty big. So that was the quick little recap. And yeah, we might be back on later on. But now a few people have dipped out. I see the numbers down because I did say bye. And I would still stay longer. But yeah, I guess that's it for now. So thanks for coming by, even for a minute. Robbie Reigns won. Nintendo's All-Stars, bye. Pokemon Fan 34, bye. Kong Dunk K, bye. It was awesome, good. You trust Switch Force, he says, expected earlier than you think. Yeah, that sounds good. I heard that too, Pokemon Fan 34. Okay. I think without further ado, I'll wait a couple seconds if there's any kind of update. No? Okay, cool. The last thing I'd want to do is like click end stream as a super chat or dono is coming in, and then I'd be like, oh man, I didn't get to say thank you live. Then I would reboot the stream all over again, probably go into horizontal mode, put your name up on the board, in that horizontal mode because that wouldn't feel right. Like, oh, you donated and you didn't even get a thanks. No. As you see, I like to read all of your names throughout the stream, regardless if it's a super chat or not, because that's just my level of interaction. I appreciate you being here. I want to talk. If you're extra kind to donate, like, you deserve that little bit of limelight, in my opinion, as a little bit of an extra thanks. You know what I mean? So I would feel bad if I closed it out. So I guess that's it for now, though. All right, now goodbye.